join us today in our program of every Wednesday. So once again, my name is Lydia Tet Olet. Of course, I'm from Kenya, the nation of Kenya, very proud Kenyan, but I reside in the UK. And today we're going to talk about COVID-19 and diaspora. We have a lot of people who are online already with different questions because they want to know what the embassies have put in place or what is going to happen post COVID-19. We also have some countries. Today we have Qatar. We have Qatar represented by His Excellency. We have the UK as well represented by His Excellency. We have Ghana as well represented by His Excellency. We have Italy represented by Immigration Attaché representing Ambassador Jackie Yonga. We have India as well represented by His Excellency. We have China represented by Her Excellency. So thank you very much, everybody. And I also have my colleague here with me who is going to introduce himself before we start our program today. Thank you very much. Walter.
Thank you, Lydia. My name is Walter Onunga. I'm a Kenyan living in the UK, and I'm here to support this great talk we're going to have today here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So I'll start with the questions that we did send, the projected questions that a lot of people want to know, or a lot of people's mind. And the first one we're going to talk about is the remittance. So we all know that remittance is one of the main source in the Kenyan development. And around 2020, when we were hit with COVID so much, we actually saw a raise of 11% in remittances in Kenya. We were hitting more than $3 million US, despite the loss of jobs, deaths occurring in different countries, but yet the remittances still hit up, which was good, which was really, really good. So I just want to ask, I'll start with the UK because that's home where we are. Regards the remittances in our country, in the UK where you represent, was your country affected, or was it part of the remittances that kept our economy, Kenya, going? So I'll start with His Excellency, UK. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. And thank you for organizing this forum. In United Kingdom, there was a very remarkable increment in the remittances to Kenya because of the number of the diaspora, and one would imagine that it was necessary for people here to support families back in Kenya because of the effect of the lockdown. And I would assume that a lot of people closed their businesses, while here people started working from home, basically. And here in UK, the government was also supporting people who closed their businesses.
Yes.
So there was no change in terms of remittances. In fact, they increased. And when you talked about 11%, this is the number that we have. The record show that the remittances increased by 2%, so it came to 13% compared with the previous year before pre-COVID. So that is a trend which I believe that the people in diaspora here were really supporting people back in Kenya, because the effect of the pandemic to our economy was more devastating than it has been here in United Kingdom. That would be my take for it. Yes.
No, thank you very much, His Excellency. So just coming back to your answers, really, regards to the support that we give Kenya, or the development of Kenya as diaspora, especially from the UK, when it comes to things like now voting, would you say that if we start shouting or making noise that we really want to vote, do you think that we are in the right state to demand such because of the help we're giving? Especially, like you rightfully say, it's during COVID, but when I did my research, it was actually 11%, but you corrected me and you said 13%, which means, yes, we're doing good. So do you think that we can demand that we can be put in a voting system?
Yes, you have every right for that, and the embassy would have capacity to through with the IEBC to run polling stations in main cities where the Kenyans are, and we know them. So it is a right that you need to, and it is a topic that when the President, His Excellency, comes on 26th here in London, it's a discussion we shall have aside with him, so that because it's something that the people in the diaspora would want to participate in shaping politics back in Kenya. So you can make noise.
Yes, we can.
You can make noise as much as you can
in the right platform. in the right platform.
Yes.
Thank you.
So that the message can reach to the right people.
The right people. Thank you very much, His Excellency. So I'll go to China and I'll actually ask the same question to Her Excellency Sarah Serem. In regards to the remittances, the same question that I asked His Excellency in the UK. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the situation in China is a little different because our diaspora is basically students. Mm-hmm. And except a smaller percentage of those who are here professionally working, like teachers. And I would want to confirm that for those who are professionally working in China, they continue to support. Mm-hmm. This was the high time that Kenya needed support, and they sustained their families back home. Most of those who are here most of them are not with their families. So it was obvious that they needed at this point to even enhance their support. But a majority of the other Kenyans are students. Mm-hmm. And so they basically were locked into the school, the premises, and they didn't have an opportunity to move out. Mm. And I am also aware that some of these students apparently do support people at home, because when we stepped in, it was like some of the streams that have often helped us, because we were doing other side jobs like teaching and stuff like that on their free times, so as to get extra money that would help them to support back home. That of course dried up. Mm-hmm. So I as much as yes, there is part that continued, but I am sure quite a bit of those who were hustling, doing other side jobs, maybe were unable to support. And I'm sure whatever the percentage that was going must have come down here in China. Besides that, there are a number of other Kenyans who also lost their jobs while here in China, because the systems that China put were such that you had no choice but to come out and declare your position. And yet we know that there were many who were doing other side jobs, but they didn't have papers. So most of those lost their jobs, and if you probably know later in some of the questions that we'll be responding, these are people that we even had to facilitate to go back home. So those also lost their economic strength, and they were not even able to support themselves, leave alone supporting people back home. But that, as it were, I think they managed within the difficult situations that they were in. And some of them even had to be supported by people, by families from back home.
Thank you very much, Her Excellency. Just what you've said, just going back to what you've said. So the jobs that were lost, were they restored? Are they now back to work, or they're still struggling?
For those who went back, coming back to China has been a challenge up till this day. Even the students that went back during the holiday 2019 December, who would normally go maybe for the Christmas season and they come back when the schools open, they are not back to China yet. So those who also left, just for purpose of exiting until situation improve, they have not been able to come back.
Yes.
So the situation is still dire, because those opportunities have not opened. Majority of those who are working, unfortunately, most of them perhaps didn't even have the proper papers.
Yes.
So the employers who had stood up for them could not also take them back.
Yes.
So we have quite a few who are still here and there, not really having valid jobs, but they're still surviving somehow, like all Kenyans do. But it's still a challenge.
Yes.
The professional employees are on, and that were never affected by the pay cuts and loss of jobs.
Yes.
Most of those were on international institutions, colleges, jobs are still on, and they're actually going on with their lives just as usual.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm actually so much intrigued by a statement that you made, that even though most of our Kenyans in China are students, but they still managed as students to actually send money back home. And that will come back to a question that it wasn't in my list, but I think I'll just throw it out there and think of, as diasporas, the importance of diaspora, that even when we are away from home, we're still thinking of development home. So I think at this forum, I'm actually right to say that we should start fighting as diaspora for 48th county, so that we are also represented as diaspora, because we send a lot of remittances back home, even as students, but we are still thinking of the development of our country. Would you say I'm right in saying that?
Absolutely. I mean, there's quite a population out here. Yes. And I am not even sure that it can just be supported by the fact that the remittances. I think just by being a Kenyan, that in itself gives you a fundamental right of voting, whether you are home, because not all those who vote are supporting the economy in one way or another. But this is even a bonus that besides being out there, they are also contributing in supporting the economy. But I think for me, just being a Kenyan is enough right for me to vote, and so that consideration needs to come out.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'll go to, thank you so much, Her Excellency. So I'll go to His Excellency in India, and I'll ask the same question in India with the remittances. So His Excellency. You're muted, sir. In India, you're muted.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olette, and thank you for welcoming us and facilitating us to have this discussion.
Thank you, sir.
As far as remittance is concerned, we are no different from India, from China, because we are dealing with a diaspora here, which is quite unique. It's even unique than any other country I can imagine. Because when we talk of India, we are talking of various types of diaspora. The first diaspora we have here are patients.
Patients.
Might be shocked.
Wow.
We are talking of patients as a major diaspora here.
Wow.
We are talking of students. And then Kenyans of Indian origin, because as you know, we have a very long history with India. So we have Kenyans whose origin actually is in India, who keep living in India, and they're actually Kenyans or living in Kenya, and then they visit India for some time in the year, something like that. We have a very small proportion of expatriates, very small indeed. And here we are, if we count, it might not be even more than 20 in terms of real professionals who are working here. And these are people who are working for the big corporates, the multinationals, who are Kenyans. And so when we talk of remittance now between Kenya and India, it's more from Kenya to India, because these are remittances which are coming to support the patients. Because most patients who come to India actually take, some incidents they take between 1 month to 6 months for treatments to happen here. So that's why they consist of a serious diaspora around here in India. And for their well-being in terms of medical bills, in terms of upkeep and everything else. So you would see the refunds happening in India, that most of the funds are actually coming from Kenya. Another unique diaspora here is a little bit of trafficked persons who are actually cheated at their jobs here in India, while actually when you talk about population of India of 1.3 billion, and the majority of them actually are, if you have the studies of India, is the majority is are below the poverty line. So which means every kind of job which is available here is taken up by the Indian population itself. So there is no opportunities for external or the migrants from any country really to come and get jobs here in India. And therefore, remittance is almost the reverse. What is, during the pandemic, what we saw more is the impact or the problem mostly was on the side of the patients, because these are people who naturally have been depending on support from back home. And then here is a situation where you are supposed to leave, but you cannot leave. So there was that extra burden of ensuring that you maintain yourself in India beyond the stipulated time. And so the distress now was on the side of the Kenyan diaspora in India. And so I'm sure that the families back home were pressed hard to ensure that they support. So this question of remittance actually is very unique when it comes to India. Very little indeed which goes back, unless we talk of direct investments. It becomes a whole ball game then when we talk of investment direction from India to Kenya. Then that is major. It's a major contributor. But normal remittances of Kenyans living out here back home is very minimal indeed.
So just to pick up on what you said, sir, during the COVID time, because in fact that is interesting, I didn't even know that the majority of diaspora in India are actually patients and then students. I didn't know that. So that's something that I've learned, and I'm sure a lot of people who are listening today have learned as well. But I wanted to ask as well, with the patients, because during COVID, and then now was there a time that the embassy or the mission had to step in and help some patients because of the money issue from Kenya to India now?
Not quite on the money issue, but the mission here in Delhi really did a lot of work to facilitate Kenyans who were stranded here, because the Indian situation during the pandemic turned out to be an evacuation. Because if you followed what was happening in India, is the first wave was India took the first wave so seriously, where they put in serious and total lockdown.
Yeah.
And that really took most of the diaspora here in India by surprise, to the extent that even those who had finished their treatment here could not travel. And I realized that when it comes to situations where restrictions happen, people would want to be restricted in their own environment, not in a foreign country. And we found that all Kenyans, mostly patients, and that is where our concern was concentrated on as a mission. Because the rest, if you are normal or if you are healthy, you can somehow help yourself. But when you are a patient, you need more help.
Yes.
And that is when the mission came out so strongly to facilitate the evacuation of these patients to go back home. And that is a time when a serious exercise of registration, and because I know Kenyans in diaspora could be listening in during this conversation.
Yes.
What I can actually say is the most important thing for a Kenyan out there is to ensure that your embassy, you register with your embassy and let your embassy know where you are. Because in most cases we take it for granted. I've also not a permanent diaspora, but I've also traveled quite a bit, and at no time have I really registered with the embassy wherever I go. But it is a very critical undertaking, say that at any given time, whenever there is a problem, at least you can be reached.
Yeah.
So the most important thing that we did is to find all ways possible to ensure that we reach or we identify where the Kenyans are. We were identifying where all Kenyans are, but we were more particular on the patients because we knew their precarious position. And that became very successful because, again, we realized when Kenyans are in distress, they now come running to the government.
Yes.
And so we didn't find a lot of difficulty in getting Kenyans registered with the mission during that time. So we went ahead. The support we did is to register them, make them form groups, say that communication could go in very fast. And so we organized evacuation for most of them. And the first evacuation was really very, was so critical because this is the time when panic was very high. Also, people didn't know whether there would be any way of moving out of India. And so the coordination between the mission and the government of India facilitated us to bring all the Kenyans from all over India. You know, again, Kenya is not like UK where everybody can easily come to Heathrow and board a plane. Here we are talking of various states across India
Yes.
who needed to be brought in, and we worked with Kenya Airways to come to Mumbai to pick them, but we had to hire some planes, and that is where the mission and the government of Kenya really played a major role. To hire local aircrafts to mobilize Kenyans around India so that they could be taken to Mumbai for them to board Kenya Airways back home. Of course, it was not easy, given that the lockdown did not, was total. Even ground movement alone was a problem. For anybody to move even from the hospital where they were to the airport required a permit. And so identifying all the Kenyans for the first evacuation, which was 240 something Kenyans, to identify all of them, so that you could give them permits, to even facilitate them to move from their residences to the airport was not an easy thing, but the coordination with the government of India facilitated that. And so, of course, the mission is very critical when it comes to, when during this point of the pandemic, and there was a lot of support. Of course, you will also appreciate the fact that it is difficult to offer financial support during such period, especially when you are talking of diaspora globally. For a government to budget for financial support to Kenyans outside there is not an easy task. And therefore, what we did basically was facilitation for them to move home. But where cases where we had desperate Kenyans, we organized with philanthropic organizations here in India, so that they would be supplied with food. There were instances where we had to organize so that some groups who had come up in India to help those who are in dire distress, we organized so that they could access food, mostly food.
Wow.
And but we managed to get them back home before the situation became worse. But for students, it's a similar thing. Okay.
Sir Balozi, I would say that I'm totally impressed for the facilitation of especially the students going back home, and also to facilitate to give some Kenyans who are struggling food. I don't think we saw that in the UK, but we did see a lot of, sorry Balozi, I am so sorry to say that, but we saw a lot of different Kenyan organizations, because in the UK, the good thing is we have a lot of different Kenyan organizations that were actually facilitating giving food, but not helping with flights to go home. So I'm actually really impressed with India doing that, because we never saw that, did we?
No,
sorry, Ambassador.
Just to echo what the ambassador is saying, my friend was actually stuck in Mumbai, and he had gone there for treatment, and was there for more than very many months until the repatriation is talking about happened through Kenya Airways. And being India is so wide, is that it has a diverse demography, meaning that they had to shuttle people through cities to get them to the central lift-off point, and that was a job well done.
That is job well done. Job well done to India. That is.
And Lydia, I must say that every country has its own unique needs.
Yes,
you know?
sir.
Yeah. So it's not that that could not be done, but that was not what was required here at that time. As Ambassador said, that the people could walk to Heathrow because the flights were being allowed occasionally to go to Kenya.
And again, India is unique in its sense because of the kind of diaspora we have here. Imagine patients. The majority of the people here were patients, and it was very difficult to leave them out here in the circumstances and the way they were. So the government and the mission had to go out of the way to facilitate them to move, because if they were healthy, they could even have taken passes from Kerala, from Chennai, and drive all the way to Mumbai. But we are dealing with patients, so that's why we had to hire planes locally to ferry them to Mumbai. So it is unique to India, actually. I think you can't compare it with UK.
Thank you.
I'd say
you
it's
so
all
much.
different. They're all different in their democracy and what they offered, because I'm sure the High Commission here also did something. Ghana, everybody did their bit to get the things rolling.
Yes.
Right? And even facilitation through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But also, it would be nice to know where the Kenyans in India could come and where you're based, New Delhi, Mumbai, where the offices are, because some people may not be fully aware where the offices are to receive those services as to where you are, Ambassador.
Are you asking a question?
Yes, just to inform people where you are actually. Are you in Mumbai, New Delhi, the consular offices?
No, the Kenya mission is in New Delhi, but we have a consular, honorary consul office in Mumbai. Otherwise, the High Commission in India is based out of New Delhi.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we have Walter with the next question.
I would like to ask the ambassador of Switzerland, just how was the country affected during the pandemic, given that you're going through the Brexit and then the pandemic came in? How did it affect you?
Okay, thank you. Thank you to you and also to Ms. Olette for organizing this forum for this discussion to take place.
Thank you.
Well, I think for us, as the Kenya mission to Switzerland, our situation was a bit unique because we arrived here in January of 2020 to open the mission, which we were not able to open until about October in terms of getting premises, partly due to the pandemic situation in this country. The pandemic first hit Switzerland in February of 2020, and since then the country has undergone successive waves of infection. They had their first peak in March of last year, and then a second peak in October and November 2020, which was even more severe than the first peak, and they experienced exponential growth in terms of people who were infected. In the first peak, there were about 1,400 cases per day of people being infected. This went down after the first wave, but when we reached October, November, we were getting upwards of 10,000 people per day being infected with the virus. And this is in a country with a population of about 8.5 million people. So you can see those are quite significant numbers. The infection rate has gone down substantially since that time. We had the third wave, which began in March this year, but it was not as severe as the first two waves. So far, we have right now about 400 to 500 people being infected per day. And in total, I would say about 700,000 people have been infected since the pandemic started. About 10,000 people have passed on, unfortunately. But the country has really gone far in terms of addressing the effects of the pandemic. Of course, they took the normal measures which were taken by every other country, advising people to keep social distance, to wash hands. Initially, people were not required to wear masks. This came up later on, particularly when the number of cases started going up substantially. But the measures which were taken basically were those of prevention of transmission of the virus amongst the population. And this has been fairly effective. Within organizations, each organization or company was required to apply various measures, and each sector actually was required to apply various measures which were suitable for that sector. If it is the retail sector, they were asked to come up with their own particular measures to prevent transmission of the virus. If it is the transport sector, they were asked to come up with their own particular measures, and so on. And then, of course, people were told that for those who do not need to work in, in their offices, then the best thing was to work from home. So that is what a significant part of the population did. And then, of course, all non-essential services were closed down. Hotels, tourism facilities, various businesses during the first wave. In the second wave, they opened up some areas, but a good number was still left closed. But through those measures, they've been able to bring the number of infections down, and they started with the vaccinations. They started vaccinating the population in December of last year, and this process has continued to date. Currently, they have administered about 8.1 million doses to the population. So this comes to about 3.6 million people who have been fully vaccinated. So that's about 40% of the population. And this process is still continuing. They're expecting that by end of July, they should be through with a very significant part of the population. All those who want to be vaccinated will have been vaccinated by July, August, thereabouts. So that is actually the issue which they're feeling will enable them to defeat this pandemic. And in fact, with the number of vaccinations they've been doing, a lot of life here has gone back to normal. They've been easing the various measures which were imposed. And actually from 26th of June, which was just a few weeks ago, they're even allowing anybody from a third country who is fully vaccinated to enter Switzerland for tourism or for a visit. Unlike the situation last year where people from many countries around the world were not allowed to enter Switzerland unless they had very compelling reasons. In fact, Kenya was one of the countries which was affected in that manner. Kenyans could not come to Switzerland unless they had very compelling reasons to come here, and many other countries. And then, of course, people coming from various countries where there have been COVID variants have to quarantine when they come into the country. Kenya at least was not affected in that respect. But then again, of course, with ordinary Kenyans not being allowed to come to the country, that itself was an issue which, amongst others, was a mitigating measure that the government here took. So in terms of Kenyans who were affected by the virus, we don't have very significant numbers. Here, the population of Kenyans that we are aware of is about 1,400, thereabouts. There are those Kenyans who have Kenyan passports, who are not Swiss citizens. Those are the ones who are about 1,400. Then there are Kenyans who are Swiss citizens. There's a significant number of those, but we've not been given the statistics on that number. But they could be in the range of 2,000 to 3,000. They could even be more, but the Swiss consider them as Swiss citizens, even if they are dual citizens. They're considered as Swiss citizens. So they don't avail the figures for those particular Kenyans. From our own records, we only know about the 1,400 Kenyans who are here. They're involved in different facets of life here in this country, working in different sectors, be it in the finance sector, banking, be it in the industries, be it in the service sector. We also have a significant population which works at the United Nations entities in Geneva. So when the pandemic started, we started by trying to get figures of the Kenyans who are here in this country. And we also contacted the diaspora associations that are here in Switzerland, of which there are about 9 of them, and asked them to inform us of any of their members who have been infected by the virus, who have fallen sick or who have recovered. And the feedback that we got was that the numbers were fairly limited. So far, actually, the numbers that we have are below 20. There could be more, but again, the issue of reporting that one is infected by the virus, it seems not very many people are comfortable with sharing that information. So due to that reason, we have not had much feedback on Kenyans being infected. In terms of Kenyans who wished to be repatriated back to Kenya, so far we only got information of one person who wanted to be repatriated. Otherwise, the situation was more of people in Kenya who are citizens of this country who actually wanted to come back from Kenya to Switzerland, particularly at the time when the airport was closed, which was between March and August of last year. And the Swiss authorities organized for flights for those Kenyans to come back to Switzerland. I think that was around the time when there was a lot of information going around about how African countries will be very severely affected by the coronavirus, and how various countries, including Kenya, may not have enough facilities for being able to treat the number of people who may be going into hospitals. So there was really no requests that we received of people who wanted to go back to Kenya, who wanted to be evacuated. As I mentioned, it was more of people wanting to come in this direction. So basically for us as a mission, what we have done is sharing information which we got from the Swiss authorities about how people can be able to protect themselves, prevent transmission of the virus, amongst themselves as well as their families, which we have done periodically. But besides that, we have not really received any further request for assistance from Kenyans.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to throw the same question to the ambassador in the UK, Ambassador Kamere. How was a country, which is Kenya, you represent in the UK, affected during this COVID pandemic? Because your UK is in a unique position if you compare with others, as UK is a kind of a business hub with the relations with Kenya, even during the pandemic, there were flowers which were sent to the NHS from the Kenyan government. So how is this relationship going? How has the pandemic affected it? Ambassador, please share with us.
Thank you very much. In that aspect, I don't, UK was not very unique in terms of the experience, but as a mission, we have been able to be in touch with the people in the diaspora. In those instances where interventions needed to be done, they were done, and we were fortunate enough to be able to have flights coming. Of course, there was a reduction in terms of trade between Kenya and the United Kingdom, but overall, the mission was able to step in, listen to the needs of the Kenyans, however unique they were. All right, and where possible, we were able to facilitate and to be able to guide the people in the diaspora in the right direction. But of course, trade in terms of business between Kenya and United Kingdom, it was affected because the production in Kenya, of course, went down because of the lockdown. So that really had an impact as far as United Kingdom is concerned. But in those areas where we were able to do some intervention in the spirit of Kenya, we were able to do that, and I am happy to say that it was good that there are still channels of communication between Kenya and United Kingdom, such that we were able to make the intervention that we did.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, His Excellency. And I'll now go to Qatar and ask His Excellency of Qatar. I know when it comes to injection with black people, we've been so skeptical about it. There's stories of infertility, there's stories of we're going to die in 2 years, there's all sorts of stories out there when it comes to injection. And a lot of black people are skeptical and they don't really want to get the injection, a lot of us. So we've been, especially here in the UK, I know there are programs running to actually even pay community leaders to go out there and talk to people so that they can be injected from charities, organizations, and so much so in the black community. So in Qatar, in the Kenyan community, have you experienced this, that we don't want the injection because of all these speculations going around in regards to the injection?
Thanks a lot, Madam Olete. First of all, let me thank you for organizing such a fantastic thing.
Thank you, sir.
That has made me see my colleagues, particularly the Iron Lady, after a long, long time. I can see her smiling there. Of course, Ambassador Barine. Wow, in Ghana, Bet in India, all my colleagues that have been, we have been kept apart maybe by COVID also. So even the WhatsApp group that was very active before COVID is no longer there. I thought Her Excellency, the Iron Lady, will let me know why she's not active. Thanks a lot again for such a fantastic reunion with my colleagues.
Thank you, sir.
First of all, please let me dwell into a bit of your first question, which was as Qatar is a major contributor of the remittances in the country, in Kenya. I hope, maybe you don't know that, but we are a major contributor, maybe even bigger than UK.
Wow.
And this is because the life in UK is so expensive for Kenyans that the little they have, they would like to actually live the life in UK. But here in Qatar, most of the people coming to work in Qatar don't pay rent, they don't pay food, they don't pay for transport. All those are given by the employers. So their money is their money, and the fact that this is an Arabic country with strict Islamic laws. We don't have those bars and discos and all those good places. They go and spend that money. So that money is all sent back home.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is all sent back home because here there is no such life like the discos in the night, the bars and all that. By the way, if you have to drink here, you must register yourself as a sinner first.
As a what?
A sinner, because you are sinning.
Okay.
Because you are sinning. You have to register as a sinner.
Wow.
And for every bottle of any drink you buy, you must pay sin tax.
Wow. So there is no Tusker there.
There is a beer here, but when you buy that bottle of beer, you pay sin tax.
Wow.
This is the tax for sinning.
Wow.
And that tax for sinning is so high that it is to deter you from drinking it.
Wow.
So you cannot just go to any pub because you have money and drink. No, because you are not registered as a sinner. You must register as a sinner, and you are given a card for sinning.
What?
So you have to
So
believe
it is this card you can produce to the pub to allow you to buy a bottle, and then they charge you sin tax. So that makes it very expensive. So in most cases, the money here the Kenyans get is all their money, because as employers give them free food, free house, and free transport to job and back. So because of that, we are the highest remittance contributor in our economy, because all the money we have, we send it back home. Yeah, so that makes Qatar one of the top remittance money coming from the here. Somehow, when it comes to your question about the injections, I hope you are talking about the injections about the COVID.
Yes, sir.
But there is no Kenyan here who has not been vaccinated.
Wow.
All Kenyans here have been vaccinated.
Wow. Good news.
Yes, and they have all have their second vaccination, all of them.
Wow.
And by the end of August, which is just a month to go, nobody in Qatar will have been walking in the city of Qatar without having been vaccinated. So Qatar is about 98% vaccinated. Just the 2% they say will be by the end of August, all of them will be vaccinated. And the vaccination is free and it's for everybody. And it is the Pfizer that we are having here.
So they could have received all their second vaccination by August.
All of them have received it. The 98% have received their second vaccination.
Wow. That's impressive, really impressive.
Yes, they have. And all Kenyans, as I said, are all vaccinated. In fact, the 2% they are saying are now the children, the 12 years and that were being left before.
Okay.
They are now the one going for them to be vaccinated. And they say by the end of August, all of them will be vaccinated. So 100% anybody in Qatar will be vaccinated.
So what's the percentage of people in Qatar? Not just Kenyans, but people first and then Kenyans.
Oh, by the way, Qatar is a very small country, but the richest country in the world. I hope you know that. It's richer than England.
Yes.
Qatar, the Qataris themselves, the population of Qataris are only 300,000.
Wow.
That is the whole of Qatari population. But population of everybody here, including Qataris and the diaspora people here, are 3 million. In other words, 2.7 are foreigners.
Wow.
Yes, so the Qatari, that is why the GDP is so high, that makes it one of the richest, actually the richest country in the world, because of the small population they have. And of course, the rich the oil and gas that they pump out every day makes the money coming in here is colossal.
Yes.
And that is why, if you remember, Qatar was the first to donate to Kenya when the COVID struck. A whole plane load of Qatar Airways donation went to Kenya and was received by none other than our CAF Hon. Babu Namwamba and the secretary for health. They were there at the airport to receive the Qatari donation. So Qatari have been very generous to us when it comes to COVID, and even now they're still. And actually, during the peak last year of COVID, so many Kenyans also lost their lives with their jobs. So many Kenyans lost their jobs. But let me add something to say here that there's what they said that every cloud has a silver lining. Actually, as much as COVID came to attack, there are some good news that COVID brought also. Yeah, because as far as the remittance that you are talking about is concerned, because during that peak of COVID last year, that is why the remittance went far beyond, despite the fact that there were no jobs, but the remittance was still higher. Because during the remittance, one, social distancing, staying at home, you are not spending.
Yes.
So COVID forced you to save. So that was a good part of the COVID. Because you are not supposed to be walking around spending the money. You are supposed to be locked up somewhere. And there were some, there were also lockdowns actually in some cities. There were so lockdowns. So when there is lockdown, the money is being saved and you can only send it home.
Yes.
That is why the remittance also went a little bit up. Yes, okay. So Qatari, then during the peak last year of the, I lost, so many Kenyans lost their jobs, and I had about nearly 10,000 Kenyans out of job.
Wow.
And for some time, you know, they thought COVID will come and go, and Qataris that they were working for told them to hold on and wait maybe a month or two, this thing will go and work will resume. So it went on for a long time without coming. Then they were starting going hungry again. So the Qatari government, through their charity organization, donated to me 30,000 tons of food to give to Kenyans.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Impressive.
And I had even a bigger problem of storage. Then they gave me even free storage to keep the 30,000 tons.
Wow.
So I distributed this food for another 2-3 months. COVID refused to go. So when the food was going down, being depleted, they added me another 12,000. Continued for another 1 or 2 months. Then it was going down again, and finally they chartered for Kenyans 3 planes to take them back home.
Wow. Wow, some governments.
Because there were no planes running, and I told them these Kenyans must now go back because the food is going down. If this food is finished, I thank them for giving us a lot of food. But they were also seeing, we said, okay, let them go. When the COVID comes down, we will bring them back.
Yes.
So we had the problems. There are no planes going. Then they said, no, we will charter for you the planes. So 3 plane loads for Kenyan were sent back. About 10,000 of them came back to Kenya. And as they say in Arabic, inshallah, right, as I'm talking to you now, thousands of Kenyans are coming back.
Yeah, amen.
To their jobs. And even this afternoon, I had just to talk to some employer who is going to Kenya to recruit 1,000 drivers.
Wow.
To come back here. And of course, there is the World Cup coming here next year.
Oh.
And we had an MOU with them that we bring for them security, about 5,000 of them for the World Cup.
Wow. That's a very good program they have in place.
That one will be coming. So at the moment, Kenyans are coming back. At least an average of 20 Kenyans per plane that coming is from Kenya to here. Any plane coming from Kenya to here, there are about 20 Kenyans inside that plane or more, joining the Qatari labor market. So, and this give us a very good remittance back home.
That's a very good program you have there with the government of Qatar. And just talking about what the good things that COVID brought, it's also the Mother Nature got cleansed. Our Mother Nature got cleansed. So that was
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I agree with you.
That was good as well. So do you have any record of how many Kenyans actually lost their lives in Qatar? Because I know you spoke about how many lost their jobs, but not their lives.
Due to COVID?
Yes, sir.
None lost his life due to COVID. But I had about 4 or 5 Kenyans being attacked by COVID, but they all came out of it safe and sound. And those actually who attacked with COVID, after they recovered, they never went to Kenya. They are still here. They are working.
Wow. This is awesome. This is information that is not out there at all. So I'm really happy that I'm learning this, or I'm hearing this, so I can also go and educate people out there in regards to this knowledge that I'm just hearing today. So thank you very much, His Excellency of Qatar. So I'll take the same question to His Excellency in Ghana. In fact, His Excellency, I have a Ghanaian here with me, so he's so happy to hear that there is an Excellency that is in Ghana. And he just wants to start speaking his language. I say, no, this, our Excellency, actually speaks Swahili. He's Kenyan, he's not Ghanaian. So I'll ask the same question to His Excellency in Ghana. So thank you, His Excellency.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
What is the question?
Oh, the question was regards the injection, because a lot of black people are skeptical, because there's so many rumors out there regards to this injection. Yeah. And especially in the UK, they're even offering, charities are offering people that have programs to go out there and encourage especially black people to get in the injection. So in Ghana, have you experienced that problem, especially with Kenyans?
Thank you very much for inviting me into this program.
Thank you, sir.
Almost to extend my warm congratulations and greetings to my colleague from Ghana, Akwaba.
Akwaba. He said Akwaba.
And just to underscore that we are quite a new mission in Accra. Mm-hmm. We actually arrived more or less the same time with COVID, and therefore we have been working hard to make sure that we set ourselves on the ground, and also be able to reach out to Kenyans that are here. The beauty about our relationship with Ghana is the Kenyans that are in Ghana, a majority of them are professionals. We have those that are, of course, professional both in terms at the international level, industry level. We also have students, and there are those that are in families or the homemakers. We, of course, have a few that are held in custody, not very many, very few of them. But over and above that, I think the Kenyan society here is quite formed. We haven't had anyone that has resisted the vaccination. I think the public education that has gone out there has been so impactful that the society has accepted that vaccination is the way to go. In actual fact, those that are pessimistic about the vaccines, I think have been told that each one of us has a fate, and therefore it could either be vaccine or any other, or COVID itself. Mm-hmm. And therefore the society has accepted that as the way. Of course, like anywhere in the continent, I think the challenge is whether we have enough vaccines or not. And I think the answer is we are struggling to get vaccines to the continent, like any other country in the continent. And therefore, as we speak, there isn't enough to reach out to everybody in Ghana. I think that is where the challenge. As I'm seated here, I'm reading newspaper that is saying we are expecting about 1.2 million doses this week, and everybody is looking forward. The society has been segmented. Those of us that are in the diplomatic community have been given the favor to access the facility and the vaccine free of cost, and which is a big thing. And we want to thank the government of Ghana for extending that facility. Still waiting for the second dose. And I'm hoping that we will be able to access this in coming days. Not everybody has the second dose In fact, not everybody has a passport itself.
Wow.
So there's a combination of that. And therefore, I'm not sure. Yes, there's a lot of social media circulation about the negative impact of of the vaccine. But I think that in a way has dissipated. The message that is coming is people are actually waiting for this because it is working and there are statistics there. What is leading the policy direction is science. And I think the government has gone out there clearly to demonstrate what the world is, where the world is at. And other than following rumors, is to bring out hard science about what the findings of research that is happening globally is doing. And of course, we're seeing other economies opening up and people now easing the restrictions that hitherto had been there, and including the most impacted and most affected countries we see are building back as a result of the vaccination itself. And therefore, we don't have that deep skepticism about what vaccine is and what it is not. The society has accepted that it is a bit more.
Okay, thank you very much. And do you know what population we have? What population we have in Ghana as a Kenyan community? Do you have the exact figure of the ones that have registered? Because I know in diaspora we have the ones that have registered and the ones who wako chini ya maji, so hawataki story. But the ones that are registered, do you know how many?
No. Yes, we do. We have actually been able to register 115 households with a total of 212. The population households, that means families, 115, and which comprise of 212. But beside, of course, those that have registered with the mission, there is a very robust WhatsApp group of the Association of Kenyans. And therefore, it's just a few that have not really come up. We know the numbers, and we continue to encourage them to register with ourselves. Not as much as we would want, and we encourage them to do that. We know where they are, because we are members also of the association itself.
Yes.
And therefore, the WhatsApp group of the Kenyans, we are members of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a nice one. So you're keeping your Kenyans in tab. We know where you are.
We found a Kenyan society that had done tremendous work here and laid a very strong foundation for our nation, Kenya. And therefore, when we arrived, it was not to take over, but to synergize, work with them, and be able to deliver better and build the image of the country to the next level. Because the Kenyans that are here have made a very, very strong impact. And the image they have built around the country is something that we treasure.
Oh, that's nice. I wish we can have that within the continent. Don't say in the UK, we do have that in the UK. But in the continent, I wish we can have that all around. You
just need to work around it. You just need to work around it.
Yes.
And because all of us are Kenyans.
Yes.
And I think there's a DNA, you call it Kenyan DNA, whereby we need each other irrespective of where and what you do.
Yes.
I think for society, we have that social fabric that we feel that we need to come together and be able to work together in a manner that is beneficial to each one of us.
Yeah. Thank you very much, His Excellency. So I'll go to the same question to Italy. I know I have Judith, who is actually representing Her Excellency Jackie Yonga. So Judith, I'll ask you the same question, please.
Yeah, well, thank you for organizing this webinar. I'm excited to be with everyone and to get to meet the faces of the ambassadors in the other countries. Well, as you are all aware, at some point last year, Italy was actually the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic. And to bring you to books, it was in January in 2020 that Italy reported the first case of COVID-19. And well, as we are all aware, there was very little information or knowledge about COVID-19. So because of this, there was a lot of misdiagnosis of patients who are actually suffering COVID-19, but they exhibited symptoms of flu. And it was around that time that the flu is usually common in Italy. So because of this misdiagnosis, the COVID the virus spread very fast. And by March, the numbers were very high, and even the deaths as of March were very high. So on the 9th of March, the Italian government decided to announce a total lockdown. So, well, I want to also bring you to speed in terms of the kind of diaspora we have in Italy. First, we have the professionals who work in the United Nations Rome-based agencies, the World Food Programme, the FAO, IFAD. Yeah, so we have that category. Secondly, we have the clergy. You all know that the Catholic Church was founded in the Roman Empire. So we have the clergy, we have the priests and the nuns, and most of them come here to undertake further studies in their religious vocations. We also have students in various Italian universities. If you remember when we had the bomb blast in Kenya, the Garissa University students were actually given scholarships to some of the universities here. And well, there are so many other students who undertake their studies here, more or less basically on scholarship. We also have the Kenyans, especially the ladies and men from the coast, who have gotten married to the Italian nationals. So we have a big chunk of those Kenyan diasporians here in Italy. We also have Kenyans who are here and they engage in low-skilled employment, and most of these Kenyans unfortunately are undocumented, and most of them rely on employment in the tourism industry, especially the hotels, tourism being one of the major contributors to the Italian economy. So if I go back to your question, Lynn, well, I want to also confirm that Italy has been very aggressive from December last year in terms of vaccinations. To date, we have about 45% of the total population vaccinated. I want to highlight the fact that Italy has an elaborate health system. Anyone who works in Italy or anyone who has papers, it is usually mandatory for them to register themselves in the health system. So once you register yourself, then you have a card that gives you access to a medical facility within your area of jurisdiction in terms of where you live. So because of this, the vaccines are basically free. And of course, they started off vaccinating the old. As you all know, Italy has the highest numbers in terms of the old population. And that also accounts for the high number of deaths, because the old who were affected were dying really quickly. So because of this, they have been able to vaccinate at least for the first doses, about 58 million people have gotten vaccinations. And for the 2 doses, 24 million people have gotten vaccinations. I'm glad to report that those of us who fall in the diplomatic corps were also given preference, and most of us have gotten vaccinated, and some of us are waiting to get our second vaccinations. So I also want to allude to the fact that the infections have considerably come down. And I don't know, some say because of summer, the weather is now favorable. So the infections have come down from last year, October, November, we had numbers as high as 20,000 to 30,000 per day. And we had deaths of over 1,000 to 1,200 per day. But currently we have infections of about 800 to 1,500 per day, while the deaths have gone down to 20 to 30 in a day. So because of this, the economy has opened up. They've actually opened up for tourism, and we are getting tourists from the EU countries, the US, and a few other countries from Asia like Japan and China. But as we speak, Kenyans are only allowed to come into Italy for work reasons. If you're a resident, and that is if you have a residency card, or for health reasons. So tourism for Kenyan nationals is not allowed as yet. So to your question, Lynn, about the reactions to the vaccine, the general feeling, well, not necessarily from the Kenyan diasporians, but even from the Italian citizens, because of the misconceptions about the effects of the vaccines. Recently, that is last week, the Italian government passed a mandatory law for all frontline workers, those who work in the hospitals and even in the pharmacies. They made it mandatory for them to have to take the vaccine. And if not, then they would go home without salaries or go to work without salaries. And this has brought up some heated debate, because this group of workers have actually gone to court to protest this. So as it is, there's a population of people who are willing to take the vaccine, and there are those who are inclined to believing that it is not necessary because of what we hear around, that it is going to do this to you and that kind of thing. So I also want to confirm that even for the Kenyans that are undocumented here, because of the Caritas, the Catholic churches, there are hospitals actually in Italy that are free to treat even undocumented persons. You walk in and you get treatment for free. So in terms of having access to the vaccine, I would say really anyone who is willing to have the vaccine is able to get it, so long as they walk to a facility that has the vaccine. Well, the national system is such in a way that you register and you get an appointment for your first vaccine and the second vaccine. So really, in terms of vaccination, Italy is doing very well. And in terms of projections, they are projecting that by the end of this year, everyone here will be fully vaccinated. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you very much, Judith, for that. And I just want to ask, when you say undocumented, do you mean wale watu hawana makaratasi, or is that what you mean?
Yes, Lynn. Yeah, you see, like the embassy here, we have about 4,000 Kenyans registered in the embassy. But there are about 3,000 thereabouts Kenyans who live here, and because they are undocumented, they don't have residency status, then they have not registered themselves. Yes.
Okay, that's great that the injection is open for everybody. I think we have that in the UK as well. We have hospitals that they've said you can go whether you have makaratasi ama hauna. Because if they deny people to get the vaccine, then those are the people who are going to spread.
Those are the ones who are going to spread.
Who are going to spread. So yeah, so that's a good thing that the government has put in place there. So
just to maybe capture just a bit of what
Judith
said,
yeah.
by Judith. It's just a question really, which is one that touches every Kenyan out here abroad. During COVID, there's been a lot of death and a lot of people not being able to be repatriated back home in death. Qatar mentioned the repatriation they did, the offers they got, but
India as well.
But what do missions have in place just to safeguard Kenyans, that a Kenyan soul will not be left in the cold? Like, you know, like now we have Kenyans who are undocumented, who are not there, but they're Kenyans. Yet when they die, nobody really cares about them. Do the missions have something in place to support that? Even when sometimes you have students as well who have overstayed that visit and they don't know which way to go. Is there a way the missions support that, where each mission caters for students? Because all of the missions have spoken about students being part of their non-Kenyans, diaspora, non-Kenyans abroad. Please, I would throw that maybe.
Yeah.
Judith will answer.
Yeah. Sure. Well, thank you for that question. And that I was very keen to stick to what Lynn had asked about reactions or opinions about the vaccine. I want to confirm that when the COVID pandemic hit, the Kenya Embassy Rome took interventions to mitigate the situation as it were. Well, to begin with, the embassy actually came up with an emergency response committee. And this committee was actually headed by Her Excellency Ambassador Jacqueline Nyonga. The main mandate of the committee was to identify any Kenyans who are in distress, not necessarily having lost their jobs or not necessarily lost their jobs, but even those who are affected by the COVID pandemic, affected in terms of being sick or lacking one or two things because of the containment measures and what was happening around the world. So this committee actually was liaising with the various diaspora associations. There are very many, there are about 15 diaspora associations in Italy, and the committee here at the embassy had an emergency line dedicated just for handling any issues that were coming up during that moment. And these numbers were updated in our website, on our Twitter and Facebook platforms, so that Kenyans would know how to communicate with the embassy. It's also important to confirm that the embassy works very closely with the leaders of these diaspora associations. So we actually have their contacts, and they have our contacts here at the embassy. And for sure, what we did was to network with the leaders of these diaspora associations using their WhatsApp group to get information about any Kenyans that were affected or sick. And through this, we would actually also network with the Kenyans living near these Kenyans that were affected to be able to either help them to get medical attention, to get provisions in terms of food and accommodation. And I wish to actually thank Ambassador Nyonga, who personally, the students, the ones who are on scholarship, usually they don't get full scholarships. So when they are here, they also engage in some employment to get money to sustain themselves in terms of food and other provisions. So because there was a total lockdown, they had, a place to live, but they did not have food. So she actually went to the extent of making sure that food was provided. And then there was a case scenario where a Kenyan was very sick in Milan. And because Germany as a country had offered to assist Italy because of being overwhelmed of their medical facilities, our ambassador here was able to liaise with our honorary consul in Milan to have a Kenyan airlifted with his family from Milan to Germany to get this medical attention. In terms of having to evacuate Kenyans or get Kenyans to go back home, we did not have direct flights from Rome because, again, if you recount, the Kenya Airways flight to Rome was barely a year old. So what we did as an embassy, we used to get information from Kenya Airways that there's a flight from Paris or from the UK, and we would avail this information to the Kenyans here, especially the Kenyans, for example, who had come to tour or for business reasons and got stuck because of the lockdown. We would avail this information and they would find a way to get to Paris or to the UK to be able to travel back home. Yeah, so basically, that is what we did. Thank you.
Wow, I think there's a lot of good things that was done during COVID with all our embassies. They did all their best, they tried. That's so good for Ambassador Nyonga for what she did, and every embassy have really tried so much to do their best. So personally, sitting here, I'm very much impressed with every single embassy So I want to ask, do you have a question, the next question?
You go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask, and this I'm going back to China again, to Her Excellency. What support do you have in place right now? Because I know when during COVID, we saw what happened in China. There was a lot of black people being thrown out, and there was a lot of Kenyans as well in that mix. And it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't pleasant situation to see. And in the UK, or I would say all over diaspora, people were angry and saying, what are they doing? What is the ambassador in China doing? What is the Kenyan government doing? But you know, it's sometimes we don't know the things that are happening on the ground. We just see what the media is showing us, what everything is, what we're seeing on the internet or in the news. But you will know exactly what's happening on the ground to help our Kenyans in China. So what do you have in place? What support do you have in place to help either the Kenyans that went through that, because that was very dramatic. So if they're still in China, they might be really traumatized because of what they went through at that particular time. Or is it that what was happening was just not real? Because we saw a lot of really unpleasant scenes. Her Excellency, you're muted, so we can't hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again, Olette, for this very important conversation, because it's more like looking back into the history of what happened at the height of the COVID crisis. If we all remember, China experienced this pandemic. At that point, it was still an epidemic because it was all centered in New Wuhan. And we had close to 100 students who were actually studying at that epicenter. Maybe behind scenes, for those who probably don't know, is these students were in total lockdown. And lockdown here is not what we are experiencing, where people still will have opportunity to walk out. This was complete, including closing the doors and almost the windows. So it was a real crisis, and you're talking about something that had not been experienced before. But there was a lot of cooperation and networking, both from within the embassy itself and the government of Hubei, which is the province under which Wuhan sits in, because these students needed to eat. These students needed to be attended in case of any sicknesses. And that collaboration ensured that those students were provided for the entire 6 months period that they were on complete lockdown. And we're talking of a situation that had not been experienced by anybody whatsoever. Part of the arrangement that we had to do just to take care of their emotional and distress was to organize the embassy too, to do what we kind of adapted a number. So I allocated each of the diplomats a number so that they are calling on a daily basis just to get to know how they are doing, to encourage them, and basically to just be there as a parent. In fact, I had to offload what I would call being an ambassador into being a parent, just to provide that motherly, parental kind of shoulder for these students to lean on. But I would tell you, China contributed a lot, to the extent that the embassy in Nairobi even sent us foodstuff, which we had to come collect from this end and dispatch, so that part of what these children also had was food that was more or less coming from home, so that we give them an essence of, a home environment, in spite of the fact that they were on lockdown. So we had constant communication within the administration in Wuhan. That meant that we needed to know who mattered at what point, whether it is sickness, whether it's food, whether it is accommodation, or any kind of distress. Out of that number, we even had 2 ladies who were expectant, and they needed very specialized attention. And that was provided because it became the interest of also the the Wuhan administration to make sure that they protected this number. When at that point, you remember it was just Wuhan.
Yeah.
But what did happen when the whole thing spread out, and the same problem that all other embassies experienced, is that a number of our Kenyans would have registered. So we didn't know how many people are out there. But the COVID kind of brought them out. Because what did China do at the spur of the time? They made sure that to avoid cross-section and people moving from one end to the other with the fear of transferring and infection, is to introduce a code where you will not enter anywhere unless you have been registered. And this was a QR code that was showing or reflecting your medical status. And you needed to come out to get this, because otherwise you will not go to your residence. So what happened? A number of these Kenyans who may not have had those valid papers, therefore came out. But I would be very quick to mention, there were no Kenyans that were thrown out. Unfortunately, I think our media is more active than any other media, probably in the entire world. Because as we sat with the majority of the African ambassadors, it was like Kenya had adapted the problems of Africa. Majority of the images that you are seeing, most of them actually were from other African countries. And yet Kenyans picked them up. And it was not even because they were thrown out. We had some of our African nationals that did not want to follow the measures that China was putting in place. And yet that was a necessity. So out of those protestations and stuff like that, Kenya picked that, and out of the media, which to me, a lot of that was not a true image, because we had been completely in touch, even with the government of Kwanjo, because that is probably where most of the demonstrations were held. Interestingly, even those of the Kenyans who did not have the papers, Chinese government, the Kwanjo government, provided free accommodation, because they tested them. Those who did not have accommodation was provided free accommodation, free food. The government also linked up with the landlords, so that these Kenyans who had lost jobs were allowed to stay in without paying the rent. And when it finally came into saving those who had lost jobs and did not have the regular income, and whom, if we remember, we had to send them back home, we made special arrangement. And most of the administrative and the protocol that was followed was actually offered by the Chinese themselves, because they had to transport these Kenyans from all the provinces where they were staying. And you know, China is expansive, and they all had to come to Kwanjo, where the Kenya Airways flight was. They provided the free transportation. They gave them exemption of penalties for those who had no valid documents. Wow. We had to work on a very coordinated approach, where the KQ, Kenya Embassy, and China government sat on what we called an operation like no other, so that we provided the documentation real time. Even those who come in and they're like, we do not have the exit document, they were provided the exit document by the Chinese embassy at that point. Those who did not have the tickets, we ended up even paying for it ourselves, contributing and making sure the Kenyans had the tickets to go home. So this was an operation that hardly anybody want to hear, because they are more, into the negativities. Of course, you can't miss those negatives in a crisis environment like this one. It's a massive operation. We are all learning from it, and yet the good part of it was bigger than the negativities that we probably get. And at the end of it all, it worked well for the Kenyans. I know we even have a situation now where the same Kenyans want to come back, but China has not opened up for other citizens, other nationalities to come back. And even the students that went out, they have not come back. And until the situation probably improve, they will not have an opportunity to come very soon. But we're still on engagement. Once all these, kind of maybe the situation improve, as it were. And China has actually tried in coming or bringing down the infection rate and managing every case that comes up. They handle it like a military operation, where there is any suspected case, they move in swiftly, and the entire place is locked out. Nobody will go in, nobody will come out. And until that is cleared, the province or the city that is affected will not be open to anybody. But as probably you all know, China has managed it. Even the Wuhan, which was the epicenter, is a very smooth operation area now. I visited Wuhan. We also visited the students. After the whole thing had settled down, the embassy went down to the ground to meet the students, to have a conversation with them, and at least, to kind of bring their emotions back and be sure that they are together with the embassy. The hospital that was constructed, if you remember that China constructed a hospital in 10 days that accommodated, I think, over 2,000 beds. It's now a museum. That tells you China has moved. COVID is almost in the past. They are, basically addressing every case as it comes, but it's not becoming a crisis anymore. That is not allowed to happen. But I think for reason that they are very serious in the measurement control system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are always quick to paint a negative picture, because we did see even some people, then they were wearing Kenyan bracelets. I don't know where they got those from.
Well,
and
the
social media has a way of putting bracelet in. So it's good, Ambassador, Her Excellency, because you've actually told us what happened in reality. But we had this painted picture, and we are always quick to blame and take the negativity. So I'm glad that we are having this conversation. So we are going to relay that conversation back to the community. This is not what happened. This is not what happened, but this is what happened. So we should give a thumbs up to our government as a Kenyan government, and also China government.
Just a question on that. We spoke about Chinese and the hospitals, the way they came out and they did everything. My question is, how have they dealt with mental illness? And when you see somebody dying, and they're just there, they die in front of you, it's something else. How have the Chinese people or the government dealt with this, or the Kenyan embassy there just to support the Kenyans, because it leaves something in your mind, Ambassador?
The whole medical structure has all those specialities, including mental management. Because we also had one student who was mentally affected, and they did attend to her. They took her to hospital and managed her through the entire period, actually, the 6 months when they were on lockdown. And we also ended up visiting this girl, and she's since recovered. We had one who was admitted, not necessarily out of COVID, but during that very period, because it was a very serious case, but they managed that individual, and by the end of the 6 months period, he was already okay and back home. The two ladies that were expectant, they both delivered very healthy baby girls, and they have all gone back. So I think it's all inclusive. The whole operation was taking care of both clinical, mental, and the psychological trauma, because they put up also counselors that were attending to all the students and all the impacted people.
Thank you very much. So as we are running out of time. I just want to ask, I will start with the UK, but I just want to ask, from the experience of COVID, I know this just hit everybody unexpectedly, and it was just, wow, this thing is here, how do we cope with it? So from the experience of COVID, coming from your own point of view or as the mission, what have you learned as a mission? I'll start with Ambassador Joachim Kamere, UK. Sorry, sir, you're muted. We call it technology in my tribe. In my tribe, they say technology.
I must say that the pandemic has taught us, everybody, very, very many new lessons. And from the diaspora point of view, and it is very, very important that people who live in foreign countries basically register with the embassies where they live. And here in UK, we even encourage even those who have challenges with their documentation, let them know, even in instances where nothing can be done, let the embassy know that you're in Coventry, that you are in Birmingham or wherever, so that you can be united. You can be at least united with the diaspora groups which exist. We have worked very, very closely with the diaspora groups, and those challenges where somebody has passed on. We may not have the statistics about how many number of Kenyans have been affected, have passed on because of COVID, but those deaths which have happened, and people had challenges of sending their loved ones home. The mission has facilitated, and Lydia, you are aware. Yeah. The mission has facilitated in terms of documentation. So for me, what I would say is very, very important is that Kenyans, we need to know where you are, regardless of your status. And I always tell them that coming forward to the mission, we shall not surrender you if your papers are not correct. All right, that is not our work. Our work is to advise you and to look at how you can possibly be able to regularize your papers. Otherwise, I know there are people who suffer in silence but they cannot seek help. All right, and it's unfortunate, but one has to take initiative. So in terms of the lessons that I would say that we've learned is that it's the reaching out to the Kenyans is very, very important. There is a lot that the mission can do. All right, so long as we are aware of your situation, the mission, as I had alluded earlier, facilitated even through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Commonwealth, in terms of getting clearances in some instances, even for relatives to come here, even during the COVID time. And to me, it's all a question of being able to reach out to the relevant authority, to the relevant, in this instance, to the mission. And I'm limiting my answer to, here in United Kingdom. All right. And basically, there's nothing impossible. It is a situation that required very extraordinary measures and, open-mindedness to be able to deal, with the situation. And I salute my colleague in China, Ambassador Sarah, that her situation was, I used to follow it on television, and even the complaints that people are making that all over. And therefore, I think it's a lesson that was learned. There are many lessons that everybody has learned. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. So my same question will go to the Ambassador, His Excellency in Ghana, please. Sorry, you're muted, sir. Sorry, this is new for us, so we are learning, all of us. So you are still muted, sir. I just like the joke of technology. That means technology defeated people. direct translation from Luo to English.
There we are.
All right,
There
thank
we
you,
are.
sir.
Thank you very much. I think just like everybody else, really, COVID was a new and a first. So there is no one who had a textbook or who had a manual to begin to work with. I think it tested the ingenuity of every human being about how to respond and to really stay alive. I think that's the most important thing, that everybody had to take every measure extraordinarily, known from and unknown, to keep alive. The second one, I think, is that there's no one who is an island unto himself. And therefore, during that moment, never mind about what resources that you command, never mind about, the opulence you live, you needed someone. Not necessarily for resources, but you needed for emotional support, you needed someone to talk to, you needed someone to reach out to, you needed someone to share with. Because all of us were scared, actually. When you look at it, the first month or thereabout, nobody was quite sure what the next day held. And therefore, I think the idea of having to be one among the Kenyan and among the society, and I'm emphasizing this because it's critical, that where the Kenyans and they have a forum, please be part of that, because that is where you get your social support. And if need arise, and we see this every other time, today you are in a good position because you have a job. Tomorrow that job is wiped out. What happened? You have to depend and rely on Kenyans that are out there. And I think that's the strength that we as Kenyans must continue to embrace. And therefore, being a member of the association is not about the benefits that you derive from them, but also what is it that you can do for someone else. So it's fundamental, and we have clearly seen this. I'm saying this in the context because we had one Kenyan who was freed from prison in March. Her prison sentence term came to an end. You cannot continue to ask, can you keep her for a little much longer? I mean, this is prison, so you are not asking for that person to stay much longer. And therefore, until we are able to organize an evacuation, which came in August, for those months, we had to rely on our Kenyan ingenuity, the way we know it. And I know, we of course got, authority to support her from the public funds, because these are not things that are available is on a case-to-case basis, because that's the policy really. Before you get to that level, whereby you're getting all these authorization to incur some expenses to continue to cater for that individual. What we are depending on is the Kenyan. And there was no shortage, by the way. That's a must. Picking her from prison, looking for an apartment someplace, buying whatever else that needed to be bought. Because, she had been there for 8 years.
Wow.
For 8 years. Not even clothes that she had probably anywhere, or even fit. You don't know. So you're starting a new life. But that is Kenyans, and I'm happy that we were able to put that together. The emphasis about registering with the embassy.
Yes.
And these are, the usual misgiving that, the Kenya embassies are out there to look after what we do. I don't think that's a mission. Actually, the establishing of a mission is to take care of the fundamental rights and interests of the Kenyan.
Yes.
And we have, I hasten to say, I may as well in confidence know that you may be on the wrong, but that cannot be the line of thought that I will take elsewhere.
Confidentiality.
So I must secure you, because that's my primary mandate.
Yes.
There's no, you have committed, I will deny. We can have a conversation afterwards, but my first line of engagement is, it cannot be true, and therefore what are the rights of this Kenya? So that is what we are here to secure, and Kenyans need to have the confidence with their people, because we are actually servants, that you can go walk there in confidence. You can only get help if you look for it and if you volunteer and open up.
Exactly.
Sometimes until you open up, I wouldn't know, because those are personal liberties. Those are your personal liberties. If you volunteer, well and good. If you choose not to, then you can only have that conversation and help to that extent.
But I hear what you're saying, His Excellency, but how easy is it to access the embassy?
We have transformed a great deal, and I'm saying this very liberally because, I'm taking from what I have had before. In our case, and of course that cut across all the embassies, there is a directive to have an emergency line dedicated for the diaspora. In today's time and age, I think the social media is critical. First of all, you have the associations, you have the WhatsApp messages, you have the technology that is everywhere. And I think, I am not quite sure there are people that now live in insular environment. Previously, when it was landline, yes, the office is closed, and therefore you will not be able to reach out. But there are a lot of, now technology has, I think, opened up a great deal about that. And you have officers that are dedicated to respond to that, but also even from a constitutional point of view, whereby you are required to, to report on a quarterly basis about if there are complaints, and these complaints come in a great way. So if you are not able to reach me, you have an option, and you have an opportunity to report that you are not able to access the mission, because when you open the website of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, there's a place where you can actually lodge a complaint.
And
but
who do you complain to? I think a lot of Kenyans would like to know that.
You will complain to the Principal Secretary.
Okay.
We all report to the Principal Secretary, and he has an email, and when you open the website, there is an icon where you can actually lodge a complaint. It needs.
Okay.
But sometimes, I think the best thing to work around is, first of all, work around the association, work around the teams that are in the missions, and find for mechanisms to work with.
Yes.
I would not really encourage so much about a reporting complaint, because the best way to go about it is to find a common ground. And here in Accra, I am in the platform of the Kenyans that are here. I keep saying I have a number that is available to everybody Kenyan. My business card as my private line. Cell number is not private actually. It's a cell number. It's available because when I secure that line, it was to be called, not to call the same number. And therefore, we are all quite completely open to whoever that is calling. So I don't think really a lot of that we are not able to access, to a large extent, I think is coming from a very long history. I think we have transformed a great deal, and we are all accessible.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I also like the system that you said earlier about the WhatsApp group, and you're actually part of it. I think that's a very good system in place as well. So thank you very much, His Excellency.
Let me finish by saying, I think the whole idea is we must deliver as one. I will emphasize. It's a philosophy that we all need to embrace. The Kenyans themselves, in their private private capacities, within the association, the mission itself, as well as our government.
Yes.
So in everything we are delivering as one. And the lessons that we picked is none of us would have been able to come out of this unless we were coordinated, we were of a common purpose, and we were geared towards achieving a common vision and a common purpose. I think that's a message to conclude my statement.
Okay, thank you very much, His Excellency. So I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I would like to pose the same question as how easy is it to access the embassies for the one in Qatar, China, and India? Because I know China and India have a diverse demographics because you're not in one area, and then Qatar is slightly smaller. So if we begin with Qatar, please, Ambassador, go ahead.
Thanks a lot, actually. Since I came here, things have changed a little bit in that to assess the embassy more quickly, and we had the diaspora that was expanding very fast, we moved into a new place, which was more bigger and more spacious for the benefit of the Kenyans here. Then we did an election, electing community representatives amongst themselves that can reach us at any time, which they have got a very vibrant office running the community. That is actually when we had the COVID last year, when we were distributing food, we used that community office very effectively to reach out to all Kenyans in all corners of the country. So that community welfare is very vibrant here. Kenyan, in true typical Kenyan way, we have a Gor Mahia and FC Leopards here, you can name it a football club.
Yes.
Kenyan FC, playing here in Qatar.
Wow.
Yes, Kenya, registered in Qatar, not the Kenyan one, but this is Qatar registered football club. Playing here, and occasionally we go and watch them, and they become very happy, and this is all Kenyans playing. Qataris, they play Tanzanians, they play other African communities that are here, and they play the league.
Wow.
They play the league, the Qatari league. Yes, they play the Qatari league, and makes them put us very close together.
Yes.
At the embassy website also, we have a 24-hour service line. You can call anytime and you will get service. 24 hours.
24 hours?
Yes, it was. Tonight, call it at night, please.
I think I'll try calling it at 3 a.m. today.
Call it, you will be answered and told where is your problem. We'll come to you.
Wow, that's interesting, sir. That's a nice one. That's very unique.
Yeah, it is on the website there. You call it anytime. You will get a service.
Wow.
So that one we introduced here to have a reach out for Kenyans in distress. That is one of the things I told you, COVID, the silver lining that COVID brought. We had to invent some few things to reach out to Kenyans at all the times. So that 24-hour service was installed last year, and it is working. And you can be reached wherever you are at any one time, night or day. Occasionally, all our national days, we have parties here. And we call all our Kenyans. We enjoy together, dance the Kenyan way. Call all the Qataris. By the way, they enjoy the Kenyan dances. We bring all traditional dancers from Kenya to come and dance here. They have also organized themselves. They call themselves the Green Maasai in Qatar. Yes.
Wow.
Very vibrant, and Qataris love them. Whenever Qataris have all their national things, the Kenyans open the stadium with Jambo, Jambo Sana Bari Gani. They love that song.
Yes, yes. That's our national anthem.
There's the national anthem here, by the way. They love it.
Yes.
And they sung at all Qatari stadiums, wherever they have Qatari things, not Kenyans. But they want Kenyans to go and sing at their functions.
So they've really embraced us.
Very much so, very much so. And not only that, they even contribute. They send up money to make that place, keep it going. And we give those boys and the girls and our young people doing the dancing and all that. So Qataris love them. In fact, if it wasn't for COVID, I was bringing them the Nyakinywa women thing to come and do the Nyakinywa dance here.
Wow.
and the Mwombokos.
Well, I think I should move to Qatar. It's more interesting than UK.
But it's only COVID stopped it, but they still want it. We are still talking with them because next year during the World Cup, they have something called fun zones. They believe some people will not just be in the football field all the time, that they will be going around Qatar areas. They have made places they call fun zones. These fun zones, they want those our Maasai dancers to go and dance there, entertaining people, while others are watching football, others are enjoying those functions. So we are going to bring them here next year.
That's an income for them.
Oh, of course,
Yes,
it is.
that's an income for them.
So for the reach out to our diaspora here, it is very well. May I say, number one is the community office that welfare office that we elected here is rich, that helped us even to distribute food last year to them. It is a very active office, and the chairman, the secretary, treasurer, and all that are in constant thing with the office. We normally occasionally get some distress calls.
Wow.
I won't say it is all smooth sailing. By the way, on a side note, I think Ambassador Willie, about 2 weeks ago, a Kenyan, of course, a civil servant lady, who was sick among the sick people, your greatest diaspora, the sick people in India. She was flown back to Kenya through Qatar. By the time they arrived at the Qatar airport to change, she became too sick to go. The Qatar Airways put her to the hospital. And here was treated, and yesterday, sad news is that she passed on.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she passed on. But Qatar Airways still have agreed to take all the costs at the hospital because they're the one who sent her there.
Wow.
And this morning, actually, I talked to Qatar Airways that they would still actually take the body up to Kenya because she was still going to Kenya. She was not coming to Qatar.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have agreed that they will still take the body to Kenya. So we are doing that further. But not only that, we have had some distresses here, but I must admit, I have got completely, since I came to this part of the world, I completely changed the view about the Islamic world. Before I came here, I had a different view about the Islam.
Oh, yes.
That I was listening to Osama bin Laden, Al-Qaeda, and what have you. Right now, it is not that. I have found that the Islamic culture one of the most beautiful cultures in the world. And they're so friendly. Yeah, very friendly. And as in about 3 or 5 days' time, we are heading to what they call Eid holidays. And during those Eid holidays, the Qataris are out in the streets looking for anybody with a problem to help. Yes. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
They just go out, look for anybody with any distress to help.
Wow.
And right now, one of the sheikhs has come out actually paying all the expenses of any Kenyan who dies here. For whatever reason, he pays and even takes the body home at his expense.
Wow.
Yeah, and he has done that for us for some 2-3 deaths here, which are natural deaths. And we are very grateful to them and many others, Qataris. And inshallah, as they say in Arabic, if things go well, we are going to improve our relationship between Qatar and Kenya. It's on the upward trend because of that.
Wow, that Qatar is in a different league. I would say that Qatar is in a different league because it's rare you hear things like that. So thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely. As I told you, Lydia, before I came here, I had also a different view about what is going on in the Middle East. But since I came here and in my capacity as the ambassador here, made me learn much, much more. And by the way, it is this because of the love the Islamic culture is. I have completely a different impression about the Islamic world. Maybe I should also become a Muslim. I don't know.
No, sir. Remain a Christian. It's fine. It's fine.
No,
sir.
Christian, you people have a lot of problems. I normally joke with them, by the way, that being a Muslim, number one, it helps me to have 4 wives. It's better.
But sir, it's okay. Our president have allowed you to marry more than 1 wife, so you don't have to be a Muslim.
No, Christians, only one. If you marry, it's about your problems. But in Islam, it is in the book of Quran. You're allowed. So that is one of the answers that I like if I have to come to be a Muslim. So because of their helping culture, actually that's what I'm talking about. Because of that helping culture that I have seen in this country, it's a very good thing, and very good thing. Actually, I hardly get stuck, even if by the way, as my old colleagues know, we don't have that type of money that can be ferrying dead people in the embassies. There's no money like that in all our missions. I don't know whether my colleagues have it.
Yeah,
we don't have.
Yeah, we've had that as well in the UK.
Yeah,
There's no
so
money.
when we are faced with such a thing, and you find somebody, one of the sheikhs here, ready and adopting a mission like Kenya, that any death in Kenya, you can bring it to me.
Wow.
And you be grateful to such a person?
No, that is somebody that you keep.
Yes, and we keep. And by the way, incidentally, he does that, and he doesn't want to come to the embassy. Yes, we have invited him several times to come. He said, no. Just send. I'll send my. They call it mandub. Mandub means somebody like my PA.
Okay. Yeah.
You bring the money and do that. Me, I don't want to come to the embassy. Why do you want me? I said, no. You want to say thank you for your help? I said, no. Don't worry. That is, I'm doing that to God, not to you.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That
is integrity.
Yes, that's integrity. So
yeah.
Yes. My question next is to the ambassador, Madam Ambassador in China. Is what have you learned during this pandemic as a mission? What have you learned in terms of, for example, communication, where people put together?
In fact, that's exactly what I was going to mention. Communication is critical because the only active mode of reaching out is communication, and it's critical first that you are in contact with the nationals, because as my colleagues have said, that's one of our fundamental responsibility, is to take care of the nationals in the host country. And that's exactly what we did as the embassy in Beijing. And I think what made it easy for us is most of the students and the Kenyans that are here have their own associations, and they're more active in a system called WeChat. So we have connected and made sure that our officers are also members of the same chat groups, so that they are able to draw and pick any issues, with be it distress or anything that require urgent attention. One thing I also learned, it's extremely important, and I see Ambassador Ahenda mentioned this a lot, to have a very, very strong relationship with the host country, with the host government, because it makes it easy for you to now bring out issues that may need some unique attention, because that's what happened with us here in China. We were in constant communication, almost on, not daily, almost hourly, minute to minute, in terms of, we seem to have this happening, there's a student here who is here, and that communication was extremely critical. If you had people who are not tired of you, but who have picked you up, not just as purpose of official formal communication, but you have established this very strong friendship, that they are able to respond to the needs of the Kenyans. We reached out even to those that are behind the bars, because we have quite a number of our citizens that are here actually in the prisons of China. And as you know, China is a very expansive country. And I would say, yes, we have open door. They come in as and when they are able to come to Beijing. But because of the distance, some of these provinces are like 4 or 5 hours flight. So it's really far, and the only way you can reach out is through the WeChat system, which, as I said, is the most active here in China. We communicate, also organize with the prison authorities, so that we liaise with our citizens who are held behind bars, and this has really helped them a lot. We receive a lot of comments that come from them. They write to us that we've become part of their families here at the embassy, because in a way they're able to reach out, get feedback, and we even facilitate for them to communicate with their families back home. Before COVID, we even arranged for visitations so that we can reach out and visit some of these prisoners. One other thing I learned, it is very necessary to go through a crisis management program. Because when it reaches that point, I also learned one thing: there comes a time you have to stand alone as a leader. Because at that point, everybody is waiting for you to make the decision. You talk about the government is waiting for you to make the decision. The parents are waiting. The media is on your case. The impacted parties are also waiting for you to make a decision. So it's really critical that you are completely prepared to handle situations that may not have happened before. So crisis management for all leaders, irrespective of where they are, to me is a necessity which need to be considered, and very urgently, because those are moments that you have to put your emotions aside and stand out for the rest of everybody else. And that was my personal experience, because you needed to be sober. Otherwise you become overwhelmed and you will not be able to handle the situations, as it were. And I would advise that if you listen to the media and listen to the cries of everybody else, you will too be crying in the process, and you will not be able to handle that. So I think this preparation is very critical, that you are able to stand out and be like a little abnormal, actually. Because I look back now and I'm like, how did I go through that? We all need to reach a situation where we can be able to stand, make decisions, because when everybody was crying and saying we want the Kenyans back home, I had names: insensitive, irresponsible, and all that. But I knew what I was doing, and I said it didn't matter who is making a decision to say we are taking the Kenyans. My stand was we are not. What was my reasoning? Nobody ever cared to know that. Mine was, this is a new thing coming up. The only people who will deal with it is the ground where it started. Kenyans, I knew, our medical infrastructure, how it is. If we released this thing and every Kenyan is affected by this, given the speed at which the infection was going through, it will wipe out our population. So mine was, I would rather they stay here. I was only praying that no Kenyan dies out of it. And do you know what? Nobody was affected. No Kenyan died. No Kenyan was infected to this day. So I didn't have a situation to deal with the deaths. And so that was one thing that I think was very critical for me. But I think the rest, the members have said. I also appreciated one thing, that Kenyans came up and formed their own welfare associations. As you hear, the government, and granted, I mean, we're talking about how many missions out there. It is impossible for any government to budget for the support system, because it is varied. And so we would encourage the Kenyans, particularly those who are working, to form associations, welfare associations. I spoke to a group, the Shanghai group, and they have formed their own associations. They were able to help each other. They even helped those who are back home who are not able to come back. And this is a very, very strong association, because I realized something. Kenyans are more patriotic out here than being home. I think back home, we take everything for granted, but when they are here, they are close. They manage each other. They do not come from counties. They come from Kenya, and they are one unit. So that to me is something that I'm very, very impressed, and I am so happy to report that the Kenyans here are able to help each other. And it's probably something that we need to borrow across.
Thank you.
I think that's what I could say for now. There's so much we learn. A lot.
I know. Thank you very much, Ambassador. And I know that sometimes,
I think you will write books.
I know, and sometimes I think after this, especially Ambassador Sarah, Her Excellency. You will write a book, especially you. And I know that sometimes
I have many books of chapters to write.
When you're making decisions, you don't know whether it's the right one, it's the wrong one. But like you said, sometimes you have to stand alone and make that decision. So thank you very much, Her Excellency. Yeah.
If I would pose the same question to the ambassador in India, why I pose this question is because you mentioned that you have more diasporans coming there for medical treatment. What have you learned during this pandemic when you're in such a situation where you have so many people who want to go back home but they're stuck? Please share with us.
Yes, thank you again. And probably India also is unique in very many ways. Unique because of the diaspora we have here in India, and also unique in the COVID situation itself. I think India hit headlines globally because of the rise and the number of cases and what really was happening in India. And I think it will not be complete before I tell you that the situation now in India is much controlled. Of course, India had 2 waves. The first wave, daily infections hit the high of 97,000 infections on a 24-hour basis. That was when the government of India really did the serious lockdown. That is where, as a mission and as a government, we did the evacuation. And then came the second wave, which was more deadly. On daily basis, we were recording 400,000, 450,000 infections per day. And that is how the India variant came about, which the government of India is not taking it for, lightly. It's not an India, it's nothing to do with India. It's now been named Delta variant.
Yes.
So the situation in India was that bad. You saw the kind of cremations which were taking place. You could watch news and India was panicking. People were wondering whether we are still alive. It's like everybody in India had been infected and the situation was really that bad. So you can imagine now the trauma of Kenyans in diaspora here, and not ordinary Kenyans, people who are patients. So it was a serious issue. But India is different again. I wish we could exchange with Ahenda in Qatar. But India, what I realized is when you come to India, you do more than being an ambassador. You really, it's a calling of some kind. Even the diplomats here, if they can confess, they also need counseling, because the kind of undertakings they see on daily basis, beside visiting patients in hospitals and comforting them, because we do it on rotational basis, is also another sector of diaspora which I was reluctant to mention, the trafficked girls, which is a major concern here in India. We have a lot of trafficked girls. It's almost a second in number of Kenyans who are based here. Of course, most of them come being cheated that there are some jobs being undertaken here in India only to be converted into street life. And you know what that means. Most of them get traumatized. They come and camp outside the embassy needing assistance. In most cases, as my colleagues have said, we have no provisions in our budgets on how to deal with them. But here is a situation where now the diplomats in the mission have actually converted themselves into the parents of these girls. Most of them are extremely young, really very young, and when you see, you can't help but do anything. We used to accommodate them in the mission at some point in time until we found that it was becoming even risk. Because luckily in our chancery, we had space and rooms, actually accommodation. So we did that until we realized it was getting risk. And so we had to discuss with shelter homes in India, organized, and we could shelter them there. But above that, the diplomats themselves were contributing all the time to buy tickets for these girls to travel home. Because for them to come here, it's like they'd hit a dead end at home. So there's nobody who is supporting them there. And so working in India is not only being a diplomat here, but you have to also wear another hat. And I am happy with my diplomats that we've done it, and we continue doing it. So as we speak now, the situation in India is much under control. We are now talking of about 30,000 infections per day for the entire India from 450,000. New Delhi alone was reporting 39,000 on daily basis, but now we are talking of 600, 300. So as it is, the situation is calmer. So what is happening to diaspora now? The patients who are in Kenya who wants to come back, we are now facilitating them to find their way. We are talking, because as it is now, the Indian government have not activated the tourist visa. So it is only the patients who would want to come for treatment here who are allowed. And again, I need to report that when the second wave hit India, countries blocked or restricted movement from India to any part of the world. And Kenya was one of them. So even Kenya Airways was stopped from coming to India. KCAA issued a notam that even passengers on transit from India cannot pass through Nairobi. So it became now a big problem. We had Kenyans. Initially, everybody was not supposed to move. So even Kenyans who were here were not supposed to travel back home. That is when we really had issues at the mission. Because Kenyans wanted to leave, but Kenya had restricted movement, just like any other country, because most countries had actually restricted movement or passengers from India to their countries. So that was where we had a major challenge of convincing Kenyans that let's keep it time, let's wait and see. But the kind of Kenyans you are trying to convince are patients who have completed their treatment and they want to go back home. Some patients, when they arrived, the second wave hit. So hospitals, because they were overwhelmed, I hope you saw, even oxygen was not found, was not available in hospitals. There was no hospital space. So even Kenyans who had just come for medical treatment could not find space in the hospitals they had been invited to come for treatment. So they were in India, in their hostels, but they were not getting any treatment. And the hospitals were telling them, please, it's not possible because there's no single space, not even space. They were facing the danger of contracting the disease because the numbers in hospitals were full of the people with corona. So they ended up not getting treated, and all of them now wanted answers. They wanted solutions from the embassy. And that is when we now beseech the government to see how we can facilitate specifically Kenyans to go back, because the situation was not favorable for them here. It was going to be more crisis for them to be in India than to be facilitated to go back home. And then a new instructions was given that as a Kenyan citizen, then you are allowed to move. But when that was given, the next problem was which airline would they use, because most airlines also had been restricted from flying out of India to any country. Luckily, and thanks to a host country, Qatar almost became the only one which operated continuously from India outside. And so most of the patients then, we directed them to book Qatar. But imagine these are patients or Kenyans who had booked return air tickets with other airlines before. So which means they had to make new arrangements for them to be facilitated to go back home. Again, I want to thank the AHENDA team, because because a number of Kenyans got stranded in Qatar. So we had to talk to my diplomats here, talk to his people, and they were facilitated on transit in Qatar, both in Qatar or in Dubai at some point in time. So that kind of collaboration really worked very well for our Kenyans. And so it stretched our capacity on very many issues. And as Barine said, this was a new thing. So it was for all of us to find innovative ways of handling this new situation. There was nowhere where you knew a pandemic of that magnitude would hit the world. And what would you do? Again, therefore, key lessons we got out of this is both from the mission perspective and also from the diaspora perspective. Inside the mission, there are a lot of lessons, and it has been mentioned by my colleagues, leadership is critical.
Yes.
Because you need to stand up and make decisions. You can't wait for Nairobi to tell you what to do, but you have to make instant decisions. The other issue which I found very important is make personal relationship with various agencies in your host country. Because those personal contacts will come to save you at some point in time. Like now, to handle such a crisis, we had to relate with the authorities in India, like the equivalent of KCAA, the aviation industry here in India. We had to secure visa for Kenyans through the immigration department here, and you know they have timelines. So with personal contacts, you could reduce the timelines it takes to process a visa to even 1 day. And then the critical one is to have good working relationship with the foreign office of your host country, because those are the people who will run around for you because they know the terrain.
Yes.
During evacuation, we were allocated people who stayed 24 hours in their office so that they could be issuing permits. The police in India could not allow anybody to move from one point to another because it was total lockdown.
Yes.
So for us even to move, as I told you earlier, patients or Kenyans from one point to the airport so that they could be taken was not possible unless they had a permit. And so there were people who were put there on 24 hours so that whenever we tell them there's somebody in Chennai who wants to move from this point to this point, they could issue it, send it through WhatsApp, we send it to that person so that they could be allowed by the police to move to the airport. Social media has really played a major role. I know there's a lot of disadvantages about social media, but it has also played a wonderful role in communication. Because like my other colleagues again, we managed to group patients. We have almost now permanent WhatsApp groups, and 3 of them. For students, they have their own. The students are more organized because they have student leadership organizations, and so it is easy to read them. But for patients, because of the turnover, you know, they are not permanent. Others come, others leave. So, but as others leave, they hand over the WhatsApp group to the new one. So we have now maintained almost a permanent WhatsApp group of the patients across India. Say that whenever they have any issue, and we have our staff inside those WhatsApp groups. So even the discussion inside, we monitor it so that we can advise them on what to do. So access to of our diaspora to the mission, again, as Ambassador Barine said, things have changed. I think I could, from operating from outside, when I was outside sometime, to access missions, I think was a bit difficult at some point in time.
Yes.
But I can tell you missions have transformed. There is total access of our diaspora whenever they have any issue at the mission, at our missions. Like right here in India, what is happening is we had to revamp, again, because of the situation, we had to revamp the website, so that it becomes more interactive, and then allocate or dedicate staff to man the website to find out what are the issues which are coming out for quick response. We also had hotlines, which is a mobile hotline, which is manned again. I know when on rotational basis, 1 week it is handled by one diplomat, and he walks around with that mobile throughout, even at home, so that he answers whatever query when he or she is in the house. But I know when he or she sleeps, that period, it's not like now. I think we need to ask Ahenda how he manages the 24-hour shift.
Yes.
Yes. Offline, we will discuss with Ahenda, but what we do is we have a mobile number, which is a hotline, which is manned by a diplomat, and at any given time, and that he goes to the house with that mobile, so that he answers it as far as he can still, like his own mobile phone. So, and then again, the training we have had for our for our local staff, say that on how to receive Kenyans. In fact, because we have guards, we have receptionists who are not Kenyans, who are Indians. So we really had to train them. When they see a Kenyan coming, is that Kenyan is coming home. So the kind of treatment is that of the owner coming home. So when people come to the mission, it is that kind of reception which we're encouraging. They should not wait for long before they are directed to where they're supposed to go. So there's a lot of transformation in the missions. And we would want just to ask our Kenyans in diaspora to treat the missions as part of them. Don't treat us as a STEM or as if the mission is out to disadvantage them in any way or another. In fact, it's a mission who always helps them when they're in crisis. And therefore, the first thing is register. That should be a rallying call, even Olet, when you talk to your diaspora. The only thing which we are suffering from as missions is our diaspora people are not registering in the mission. Say that whenever they have a problem, they are quick to communicate to media in Kenya than to communicate to the mission where they are. In fact, what we sometimes hear from the media, we are even not aware of. They have not engaged us so that we solve the problem, but you just hear a complaint arising from back home. So we would really want to sensitize the diaspora that let them treat the missions as their partners. Because the situation is now different, extremely different now, so that we can work together and make their life in foreign countries more habitable and better for them. So otherwise, I think, Olet, this was a wonderful discussion. I hope we'll have another time to engage again.
Yes, I think there's a lot, because there's a lot to be said. And there's a lot that we've learned. That I think this session was just ice breaking. I think we will talk to the Foreign Affairs. I know as Abdallah is here representing Harriet Nduma. So we'll speak to them again and facilitate another session. Right now, I'll go to...
Yes, I'll just briefly, if time allows us, just to ask the same question to the mission in Italy. Being Italy was the epicenter of the COVID outbreak, part of the outbreak. What have you learned? If just briefly tell us how you've learned to incorporate everything, given that Italy has professionals who are catered for by the United Nations, as you mentioned. Then you have the clergy, then you have students, and then you have families and people who have moved there through other means. How did you cater for this?
Well, thank you once again. And for Italy, lessons learned from the COVID pandemic, I will not delve into what the ambassadors have already spoken about, as much as some of them are lessons we have learned. I will only highlight what has not been said. So for me, one, what we learned is that digital access must be seen as a necessary utility, just like water and electricity. Why? Because with technology, then you will be able to communicate. Today we are here because of technology. We are having this meeting, which would not have been possible if we were to all travel, for example, to London to have a meeting. So for me, digitization is very important. Secondly, being agile is one of the attributes that can help organizations or missions to build resilience. So agility here is an attribute that would make, one be able to handle crises very fast. It enables one to be able to think fast, to make decisions and implement, and this would go a long way in saving situations. Being agile also in our leaders, for example, we would help them to develop employees or staff that are empowered. And empowering in this sense is by delegating. So, and when you delegate and allow people to be able to make decisions and you integrate technology with it, then trust me, you will be able to handle any situation as it comes. Lastly, there's the very fact of finding community. We've all talked about these diaspora associations reaching out to Kenyans. Essentially, it's about finding community, identifying someone around you, because it is this community that is going to shoulder you when you have problems, and it's the same community that you'll be able to help when they really need. So it is important, Lydia, please reach out to the diasporians, ask them to register, ask them to reach out to the embassy. We have websites. I'm sure all these embassies represented have websites, but most of our Kenyan diasporas do not even know that we have websites where they can visit and get to know what services we offer, what they can do with the embassy, what opportunities we have, put in our website to, in terms of investments back at home. We even have a diaspora inventory skills. Like, for example, our embassy here, we have an inventory for that, a database that we are trying to collect inventory skills for Kenyans here. Wow. But when you go to the website, you'll find that it's rarely even filled up. So it is important that Kenyans demystify the thought that the diplomats are on their own and we are here for them, like the ambassadors have said. That is why we have been brought here, to take care of their interests and to take care of their welfare as much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next ambassador, please. Switzerland.
Ambassador, Switzerland.
Okay, so the same question will go to our next ambassador. His Excellency in Switzerland, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Alette. And I think for us, the main lessons that we have learned, if I can look at things from a little bit of a wider perspective, first of all, is the issue of following advice of the authorities. I think that is what has helped a lot of the people in Switzerland in terms of minimizing the effect of the infections, which could have spread much more. The guidance which was given in terms of prevention of transmission, washing hands, social distancing, sanitization, and so on, that really assisted in terms of preventing further spread of the infections. On the issue of vaccinations, Switzerland is one of the countries which has really gone far in Europe in terms of vaccinations, and that is because the government took it upon itself to really emphasize on vaccinating as many people as possible. Considering that the government or the country here has a population of about 8.5 million. The government acquired about 40 million doses of vaccines so that it could be able to cater for the entire population, not only in this particular period, because the information that has gone around is that vaccinations may be required over a 2 or 3 year period to ensure that even if the successive waves of the virus that keep on coming, especially with the new variants, it's important to be able to continue vaccinating the population afresh, since the vaccines are expected to last for about a year or so. So the government acquired all those vaccines so as to ensure that they were able to vaccinate the entire population, and it has encouraged the population to ensure that they all get vaccinated, and they have been quite successful in that. Also, in terms of the way the pandemic has been handled here, I think there are lessons for us in terms of consultations which have been undertaken. The national government has come up with the overall policy and regulation regarding how to deal with the pandemic. But then at the cantonal level, the counties, so to speak, each of the counties was given the responsibility of how to address the pandemic within their own particular area, but under the main parameters which were provided by the government. So you'd find that in a canton like Geneva, for instance, the requirement was that there should not be more than 5 people congregating at any one time, unless they belong to one family. In other cantons, the numbers were a little bit different. So this was specific to each canton because they realized that one solution or one size cannot fit all. But through all of this, there was constant consultation and discussion about how to be able to tackle the pandemic jointly together. There is also the issue which was mentioned earlier of communication and also registration with the mission. This is very important in terms of the mission being able to engage with the diaspora who are here in this country. And as a mission, we have had engagements with the diaspora a number of times. They have held functions, particularly last year, when the virus went down, where I've gone to address the diaspora. And one of the things which I've been emphasizing is the formation of a diaspora association, because there's different associations here in the country of Kenyans in the different cantons. But you find that naturally they'll all work and have been working independently and catering to their own particular issues within their own cantons. But they have commonly seen the importance also of coming up with one umbrella diaspora association, which can then be the main interlocutor or platform which can be able to engage the embassy. And also this would be able to assist them in terms of finding commonalities which they can be able to bring together when they approach the embassy, so that we can be able to engage them as one group. So this is something which they have taken very seriously, and I'm glad to see that they've been working on it, and we continue to engage them in terms of that diaspora association. As a mission, our doors remain open to all Kenyans living here in Switzerland. I've shared my number with the leaders of the diaspora associations, and they contact me every now and then regarding any issues which they wish to follow up. And we remain ready to assist them with any of their concerns which they raise with us. One of the things which has currently come up most recently is the interest of Kenyans. Now that many people in Switzerland have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19 and are expecting to get COVID-19 vaccination certificates, they are following up the issue of the government of Kenya exempting fully vaccinated people from having to do a PCR test when traveling to Kenya. So this is an issue which we are taking up with the authorities back at home to see how it can be addressed. Although, of course, it may depend on a variety of other factors not affecting just Switzerland alone. But this is the kind of relationship that we encourage with the diaspora, where we can freely exchange with them, where they can feel free to come to us as a mission, be able to engage with them on any issues of concern which they have, and then we can see how to be able to address or deal with them. So for me, I think those are the important lessons that we have learned.
Thank you. Thank you very much, His Excellency. Now we've come to an end, but before we finish, I would like to really appreciate the Foreign Affairs Office for facilitating this session today. So I have Abdallah here. Abdallah, I'm just giving you 1 minute actually to say something to all of us. And thank you so much once again for the facilitation.
I don't know what time it is in the respective places, but good evening, colleagues. Thank you very much, Lydia, for organizing this important webinar. This, in fact, is in line with the government policy of engaging the diaspora. So we really appreciate this very noble initiative from your end. And I would like to thank my seniors, all the ambassadors in the House and other colleagues for accepting to participate in this webinar at a very short notice. I must say it is the most attended webinar that has been conducted by the ministry or its partners over the last 1 year. So thank you very much for participating. My director, Ms. Harriet, was not able to be with us. She's in a meeting, in another meeting with the PS. So mine is, of course, as a directorate that oversees the issues of diaspora. The concerns are the same as the ones raised by all the missions. They are almost similar. Of course, every embassy has unique peculiarities, but generally the concerns are there: lack of registration by Kenyans, budgetary constraints, and all these other. But my advice to our diaspora now is, yes, we expect government to offer the services. What is our responsibility, our roles and responsibilities as members of the Kenyan diaspora? One, encourage through your networks, please, that members of our diaspora respect the local laws, customs in the countries in which they live, because it is now apparent that a lot of Kenyans are involved in criminal activities. The reports we get from China, from India, from Saudi, is a large number of Kenyans who are now in foreign jails for committing crimes. And the issue of crime is about individual responsibility. Criminality, of course, it's not unique to the Kenyans in the diaspora. Kenyans at home do criminal acts, and that's why we have correctional services. So Kenyans should respect the local laws, immigration laws, the health laws in those countries, one. Two, they should ensure that their documentations are in order, your passport are valid, so that in case of an emergency and they seek for evacuation, you can be assisted. Now, if a Kenyan is in Bahamas, and these are real life examples I'm quoting, and your passport expired in 2008, and you've never renewed your passport, and you now need evacuation, it becomes a challenge for the government to offer a timely service. The issues, of course, of residency and work permits, residence permits, that is a tricky business, but as much as it's practically possible, again, it is our civic duty, responsibility as members of the Kenyan diaspora to have our documentations in order, valid. Then the government cannot reach out to each and every Kenyan in their respective houses. So we encourage Kenyans to form associations, join diaspora groups, so that they have structured engagements with the government, with our missions, for faster service delivery. And then, of course, finally, it's now registration with our missions. You see, government requires this data for purposes of planning. The government, the Kenyan diaspora is now asking for opening up of new generation passport processing offices. If the number is not there and the budget is not enough to open all these offices at the same time, how do we prioritize? We prioritize with the ones that have the large concentration of Kenyans. So we encourage our ambassadors, our embassies to have this data, so that there are now current initiatives. Of course, IBC is now engaging the ministry on how to bring Kenyan diaspora to vote in 2022 general elections. That talk is ongoing. We are going to share, I think we've shared with all the missions now. Yeah. They require data of all Kenyans over 18 who are eligible to participate in the general elections. If Kenyans still don't trust this data with the government, then asking the same government to provide voting centers is a double standard on our part. So let's encourage Lydia through these channels that you have to register with our missions. This is purely for planning purposes. The government uses this data to determine which mission should participate in the 2022 general elections, which area requires a passport and identity card printed office. Of course, it is progressively being implemented. So my appeal is, these are for our own benefits as members of our diaspora. And then the issue finally is about the issue of the new generation passports. I think the old generation passports are to be phased out by 31st of December this year. You guys in London are lucky, you have a passport issued office there, but in other missions, Beijing, India, advise our diaspora that the deadline has, I think the final extension has been issued, extended to 31st December 2021. So Kenyans should take advantage of this window and replace their old generation passports. I can see immigration colleagues in the house, Judith, Salome, Mwasaru, advise Kenyans so that they are not again, of course, I don't want to use the word, but the Kenyan way of being rushed in the last minute rush. And then the final one, I was given a minute, but I have overshot my 1 minute, is the issue of Huduma number. There are a lot of inquiries about Huduma number.
Yes.
Huduma number, now all the Kenya missions have been designated as issuance centers and collection centers. So members of the diaspora are encouraged to contact the nearest Kenyan mission. And there is maybe for the importance of, there is a diaspora number. There is a number that has been set up by the Huduma Secretariat, an email address for the diaspora. Diaspora at.
Can you, sorry, can you write that down for me in the chat?
Oh, in the chat, okay.
I'll get it down and I'll pass it on.
Yes,
okay.
Diaspora at hudumanumber.go.ke. Just for the rest of the other members, I will put it in the chat. Thank you very much. God bless you. And it's been a pleasure to be part of this exercise.
Thank you.
Sorry,
thank you very much. We do have, yes. I know we have a lot of questions, so we're going to do this again, Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much. We're going to do this again because we also have an issue of KRA, where Kenyans are everywhere. Oh, KRA, where are we doing? So that one we've not even touched. And I really, really want to appreciate our ambassador here in the UK, Balozi in the UK. He actually brought somebody for us who spoke to us about the KRA issue. And as we are here today, I'm happy because I think we've learned from each other. We've learned, especially when our ambassador for Qatar was talking about the 24 hours helpline they have. We've learned from each other. So I think it's just good for us when we go, we think of how can we make this better. And also, I know the IEBC, they asked diaspora to register. Diaspora, we don't want to register. The reason, I don't know why, but then we're going to cry that we want to vote. We cannot vote without the numbers. So we need to get out there as a diaspora. We need to register, and we need to air our voices out. We have platform. Foreign Affairs are happy to work with us. When I spoke to Harriet Nduma, she said she's happy to work with diaspora in terms of if we want to vote, KRA or MFA, they're here for us. So diaspora, let's take this opportunity. But one thing before I leave is I just want to ask every mission, because we've heard this and every mission has spoken about one thing: diaspora need to register. Why do you think we don't register? So that is the question that I will leave with you, with every single mission. And before we go as well, I just want to say thank you so much to Ambassador Washington Olo, who also helped me facilitate this. So thank you so much. I know he's enjoying the sunshine in Kenya right now. So thank you so much, Ambassador Washington Olo, as well, for your help with this. So once again, I'll say thank you so much, every single person. Thank you so much, Ambassador from the UK. Thank you so much, Ambassador for Qatar. Thank you, Ambassador for Ghana, Ambassador for India, Ambassador for Italy, even though she sent somebody to represent her, Ambassador for China, and Ambassador for Switzerland. Thank you so much at the Foreign Affairs Office as well. So do you want to say something before we say our goodbyes?
Yes. we've overshot our time.
Yes.
And one thing that has come up for CLEAR is communication has enabled things to happen during the pandemic. And it's a good thing that the big thing I've had here is that all Kenyans living abroad or in foreign land need to register. And they need to register so that the embassies know who they are, where they are, for any eventualities which occurred last year when nobody was expecting it. So, and once again, a big thank you to all the missions who have attended here, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and telling us we are ready here to vote.
Yes.
And we are ready to go ahead. And what this platform has provided today has shown something can be achieved.
Yes.
Through integrity, collaboration, and communication. Because right now we're talking throughout the whole world, through different parts. We're in Asia, we're in Africa, we're in Europe. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lizzie. Thank you, ambassadors.
Thank you so much. So nitasema asanteni sana and kwaheri. I'll get in touch with every single one of your ambassadors and I'll get the numbers, so when I'm putting it out, I'll put the numbers that people can also communicate with you, and I'll put your word out there. So thank you very much and God bless you all.
At World Remit, we understand what the journey is about. How it can sometimes take a little distance to bring us a little closer together. With ways to save more when you send more, World Remit is here for you, so you can be there for them.